My name is Nancy Tucker, and I am one of the librarians at the library. And today we're going to start by talking about 5 things you should know about the library. The first thing you should know about the library is how to access our resources online, because we have a lot of resources available through the library. They're free for students. We have over 100 databases. We have access to thousands of journal articles, thousands of journals and millions of journal articles. And we also have ebooks available through the library, and they're all free for you. But you do have to log in. So anytime you're accessing our library resources, you'll want to log in through MyJU, and then in the center column, look for the link for the library. So there's a link for the library in the center column. And once you click on that, you will be authenticated as a current JU student, and you'll be able to access all of our resources. So always remember to log in through MyJU. And that's especially important if you're researching and you're working off campus, because if you're on campus, a lot of times it will authenticate you already. But if you're off campus, you definitely want to log in through MyJU. The second thing you should know about the library is that we have research guides to help you get started with your research. So no matter what class you're in at JU, we have research guides that can help you with your research. So as you can see, for your class, you'll be using the English research guide. But if you were in a nursing class or a business class, we also have research guides for those classes as well. And our research guides are really a great place to get started, because librarians have picked the best databases, the best books, the best ebooks for your specific class. So we always start with our research guides. No matter what students we're helping in the library, we always start with our research guide. The next thing you should know about the library is that librarians can help you with your research. So as you can see, here are our librarians. At the top we have Allison Crawford and Kasana Jackson. And then on the bottom, my name is Nancy Tucker. And then also we have Olivia Hatton-Edwards. Those are our 4 librarians that will be glad to help you with your research. Anytime you have a question about how to find articles through the databases, or even just how to get started, come see us and we'll be glad to help you with your research. So there's 2 ways that you can meet with a librarian. You can either drop in, or you can make an appointment. If you'd like to make an appointment, maybe if you're not available during those virtual hours and you want to make an appointment during a different time, definitely we can do that. You just use our Book a Librarian link on our library's website. And once you click on that, you'll tell us what you're working on and when you're available, and we'll be glad to meet with you when it's convenient for you. So those are the 2 ways that you can meet with a librarian. You can either drop in or make an appointment. The next thing you should know about the library is how librarians can help, because a lot of times students don't really know how librarians can help with your research. But these are the top 3 things that we can help you with. We can help you with finding your sources through the databases or through the library catalog if you're looking for a book. We can also help you evaluate your sources to make sure that they're credible and reliable, because you want to stay away from certain sources that may not be credible and reliable, but librarians can help you evaluate your sources. And we can talk a little bit about that today. And then the last thing we can help you with is citing your sources. So no matter what citation style you're using, MLA, APA, we can help you with citing your sources. So come see us and we will be able to help you with finding, evaluating, and citing your sources. Now, we won't write your paper for you, and we won't read your paper, but there is a writing center on campus that can help you with your writing. There's a tutoring center on campus if you need help with tutoring. But really, we just help you find, evaluate, and cite your sources. And then sometimes we'll look at your references page, because we can really give you some advice on that, or your works cited page, but we will not read your paper. The next thing you should know about the library is that we do still have books. So we have a lot of books in the library, but when you first walk in the library, you won't see a lot of books on the main level. That's because we've really renovated the main level of the library to be study space. There's lots of tables, lots of area for you to social distance and spread out. We have study rooms, we have soft seating, desk and tables. But we do still have books in the library, and those are on the first floor and the third floor of the library, so upstairs and downstairs. And if you need help finding a book, let us know. Also, we have ebooks that are available electronically, and those are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So even if the library is closed, you'll have access to electronic books through our library databases. And then here are the links where you can contact us. You can either give us a call, you can make an appointment using the Book a Librarian link on our website. You can email us at library@ju.edu, or you can check out our website. From the library's website, we're going to go under Research and Research Guides. So anytime you're doing research, we're always going to go under Research and Research Guides. And for this class, we have an English research guide. So we're going to go ahead and click on our English research guide. And as you can see, we have databases, we have journals, we have web resources, even information for citing your sources. But let's start by looking at the databases. So on the databases page, we have a lot of databases listed here, but primarily for this class, you're going to be using Academic Search Complete, which is the first database listed on this list. So Academic Search Complete is a really large database. It contains articles from different topics. It's multidisciplinary, so there's lots of different articles in there for any topic. And also it's a good idea to keep in mind in future classes, if you're ever unsure of which database to use, Academic Search Complete is a good database to use for any topic. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Academic Search Complete, the first database in the list. And today I'm just going to go through some of the features of the database, how to search the database, and then go over some tips for conducting your research in the library's databases. So the first thing that we want to do is type in a keyword. So a lot of times students want to type in an entire sentence in the database, and that's really not the best way to search. It may work for Google, but in our library database, you really want to break down your topic into specific keywords. So you'll have your research question, but as you're looking at your research question, maybe circle keywords from your research question that you want to use to search the databases. I'm going to start by doing a very basic search for depression. So if we search for depression, we can even say depression and anxiety, but let's take a look at some of the results here. And then sometimes as you're looking through the results, you may even find additional keywords that you'd like to add to the databases. So this one's talking about depression in veterans, depression in the elderly. So it's kind of all over the place. It's not very specific. When you're doing your research, you want to be more specific with the databases, because with a general search, you're going to find that you're going to probably be overwhelmed with the number of articles. And sometimes that's what we tell students when we're working with them is you don't want to pick a topic that's too broad, because then you'll get way too many articles. But you don't want to be too narrow either, because if you're too narrow, you won't find enough articles. So in this search, there's over 300,000 results. Let's add an additional keyword. So I'm going to say children. Do you think we'll get more results or less results if we add children? So we've got depression and children. So these two keywords are connected by the term and. Let's give it a try. So depression and children. So we actually have less results. We have fewer results. So previously we had 300,000 results, but when we added the keyword and, it actually gives us only 40,000. Yes, so we actually get fewer results. So and will actually give you fewer results. But if you want to get more results, there is a way that you can do that. So we could say children or adolescents or youth or child or teenager. So keep that in mind. If you want to get more results, you'll use the keyword or. Well, let's see. I'm clicking on it and it's not doing it. Okay, there we go. So notice how those terms are connected by the term or. Or means more. So or, you'll get more results. Let's say children or teen. We should get more than 40,000. So now we have 43,000. So with depression and children, there were 40,000, but depression and children or teens, now we have 43,000. You can also add an asterisk, so the little star key on your keyboard. So that'll look for teen, teenagers, teens, any alternate ending of the root word. So we've got teen, teenagers, teens, and that's just by adding the little star on the keyboard, the asterisk. So let's see if that increases our results from 43,000. So now we have 45,000. So there's a couple different tips that you can try when you're searching the databases to increase your results or decrease your results. Let's add another keyword, because as you're looking at your research question, you want to be as specific as possible. So maybe we're researching depression among children, but also teens. And actually, let's just say teens. And social media, because I know that social media, I know there's some research out there on how social media has impacted teens, teenagers, and it actually causes depression in some cases. So let's see how many results. We should get fewer results because this keyword is connected by and. We've got 3 keywords on separate lines and they're connected by and. So we should get fewer than 45,000. So now we have 198 results, but these are going to be very specific to what we're researching, because we're researching depression, teens, and social media, how social media can contribute to depression or mental issues with teens. So let's look through our results list. We can also add additional keywords too based on what we find, because this one is talking about social networking. They're calling it not working, social not working. Let's take a look. Social media, video games, depression, social anxiety, child anxiety. One thing I notice is this first article here says periodical. So sometimes when you're doing your research, your professor will ask for peer-reviewed sources. So peer-reviewed sources are the highest quality sources that you can find through our databases. They're going to be scholarly, they're going to be written by experts, and also reviewed by other experts. So in this case, because this one's a periodical, it's not necessarily from a scholarly peer-reviewed journal. This article is from a source, Scientific American Mind, which may be a really great source, but it's not scholarly. It's not necessarily peer-reviewed. Let's take a look at this. So if we click on the article, and then if you're ever unsure the title of the journal, it's going to be listed as source. So we know that the journal or the magazine, the publication that it was written in, is going to be in blue here by source. So this is Scientific American Mind. And if we click on the name of the journal, it's going to tell us all this information about the journal, but what we really want to look at is if it's peer-reviewed, and this says that this publication is not peer-reviewed. So if your professor asks for peer-reviewed sources, you want to make sure that you're finding sources that say yes under peer review. So let's look at the second article. So this one is from a university. It's called, looks like Brown University Child and Adolescent Behavior Letter. So I'm going to click on this. So under source, the name of the publication is Brown University Child and Adolescent Behavior Letter. I'm going to click on that, and let's see if it says if this one is peer-reviewed or not. So yes, here it says that this source is peer-reviewed. So it's something to keep in mind in this class and in future classes if your professor asks for peer-reviewed sources. Now, one way in the database that we can limit all of our results to peer-reviewed sources is on the side here. There's a link that says scholarly peer-reviewed journals. So all we have to do is check this box. And now instead of 198 articles, now we have 176 articles. But all of these sources are going to be peer-reviewed because we check this box here. So we don't even have to check every journal because we know that they're going to be peer-reviewed because we told the database to limit all of our results to only peer-reviewed sources. So something to keep in mind when you're doing your research. Let's go through and look at some of these articles. Sometimes you'll see a PDF or HTML attached to the article. So a PDF would basically be just a scanned copy of the article, just like it would appear in the journal. HTML would just be the text of the article. And then sometimes it says full text finder. So let's look at the difference. So if we click on PDF, this will show us the PDF of the article, just as it would appear in the journal or the publication. So that's really nice. We can save this, we can email it, or we can even save the permanent link. Let's go back. The HTML document looks a lot different. Now, if you want to see the pictures, the PDF is the one you want to click on. Now, most journals do not have pictures or photographs, but sometimes they do have illustrations or graphs or things like that. But the HTML version will basically just be the text. So if we scroll down, we've just got the text. There's no pretty images or anything like that. It's very basic. Let's go back. And then the other example here was the second article where there's not a PDF or an HTML, it just says full text finder. So if we click on full text finder, what that's going to do is look for this article in another database. Now sometimes there can be issues with the linking, but typically you would just click on the link and follow the links to the article because it's saying that this article is not in Academic Search Complete, but it may be available in a different database. So here's the title of the article. It's in Gale 1 file. And if you wanted to view the article, it's 5,000 words. And here's the complete article that you can read. So something to keep in mind, if you do see a link that says full text finder, all you have to do is click on that and then keep clicking the links until you find the article because it'll take you to a different database. Sometimes you'll find an example like number 6 where there's no PDF, there's no HTML, there's no link to full text. It does say cited in this database, but basically for number 6, it looks like we do not have this article because there's no PDF or HTML or link available. So this can be frustrating for students sometimes when they see an abstract, which is a summary of the article, but there's not the complete article. So this is not something that you're going to be able to use if you can't find the entire article. Now, we can get articles for you from other libraries. You can make a request through interlibrary loan to get this article, but sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it can take a week or two, sometimes even longer. So something to keep in mind, if your paper is due next week, you probably don't have time to wait on this article. But if your paper is due at the end of the semester, you may be able to wait for this article and we can get it for you. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if it's frustrating you and you don't want to see these abstracts in your results list, you can eliminate those abstracts and only see the articles that we actually have the full article for. So to do that, on the side here, we're going to limit to full text, and that will only show the articles that we have full text access to. So once we click that, instead of 176 articles, now we're going to get 128 articles. So it eliminated all of those summaries, and now it's only showing us the articles where there's a PDF or an HTML or a full text finder where we can find the full text. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're doing your research. let's look at some of these articles. How about, let's click on I think we've already clicked on number 1. Let's pick another one. How about number 4? So when you're evaluating an article, you always want to look at 5 things. So the first thing you want to look at is the author. So who is the author and what do they know? Are they an expert in this area? Do they have a master's degree or PhD in the area that they're writing about? Or is it just your next door neighbor Bob who decided to write a blog post on the topic? Anybody can publish these days, but you always want to make sure that you're finding qualified, scholarly authors to write on the topics that you're researching. So the name of the author is listed here. Sometimes the article will actually give you a summary or give you a little background on the author. I don't see it listed here. Let's see. However, sometimes it's listed in the article where it will give you a summary of the author's background. So a lot of times it'll say where they work, what their experience is. Now here is a little summary of the author. It says Allison is a freelance journalist specializing in mental health and addiction issues. So something to keep in mind, a journalist may not be as scholarly as a doctor. So something to keep in mind, she does specialize in mental health and addiction issues, but if you want to find something from maybe a little bit more reliable source, maybe I would say maybe look for something from a psychologist or a doctor. This is still a pretty good source, but it is something to keep in mind. You want to know who wrote the source, who wrote the article. If you get to a point where you're not finding anything about your author, you can always Google them. If you Google their name in quotation marks, a lot of times it'll come up with their university biography or their LinkedIn page where it'll tell you more about the author. So that's another tip, that if you're not finding a lot in the databases, you can always Google them. And if they have a common last name, it'll be harder for you to find information. But if they have a not so common last name or first name, then sometimes if it's not a common name, you'll find a lot of information specific to the person. So the 5 things you want to look for, the first one is author. The second one is the publisher. So in this case, the publisher would be the source, the name of the publication where this article was written. So here's the name of the publication. So what types of information do they publish? Are they peer-reviewed? We do know that they're peer-reviewed because we check that box in the database. The next thing you want to look for is the date, because date can sometimes be very important. Sometimes it's not as important. So like if you were researching the Great Depression, then maybe an article from 10 or 20 years ago is okay. But sometimes when you're researching something like social media or suicide rates among teens, you want to get the most up-to-date information. So in this case, this article was written last year, so that's fairly current. With technology and medicine, we try to find articles within the last 5 years. But for things like literature or history, maybe the last 20 years is okay. But always check your assignment requirements, because you want to make sure you're always following your assignment requirements for date and for the types of sources that you need to find. So author, publisher, date, sources. You want to see if this source is citing their sources. So usually they'll have a references list or bibliography or works cited. So let's see if they're citing their sources. So usually that'll be at the end. So it looks like there's one reference here, so there is at least one reference. So that's good. If there were no references, I would be a little bit more concerned. But sometimes it may not be a formal list at the end of the article. Sometimes they're just name dropping throughout the source. So sometimes they're just giving you the sources in the paper. If it's maybe not as formal. So here it's saying the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So she's already citing sources throughout. Here she's talking about the Journal of American Medical Association. She's citing a lot more sources than it looks like she's putting in her references. So That's interesting. So author, publisher, date, sources, and then watch out for any potential bias. And anything could contain bias. You just have to watch out for it. A lot of times if a study is funded by a specific company or organization, there may be a little bias there because the company may be, funding the research to deceive people. So you just have to watch out for that too. So watch out for any potential bias in your articles. So we've looked at different types of sources. We talked about how to evaluate sources. We talked about how to limit your results when you're searching the databases to only one keyword per line. We talked about you can also click full text to show only the articles that we have access to. And then scholarly peer-reviewed, you check that to limit to scholarly peer-reviewed journals. Here is date. So it looks like at least one article in this list goes back to 1986. So that seems fairly old. So if we wanted to maybe say the last 5 years, you can change the date here on the side. And that will also reduce your results from 128 to 91. So that definitely reduced our results as we limited our date to the last 5 years. So another thing that you can do when you're researching your topic is you can limit by date. Let's click on one of the articles and I'll show you a few more tips in the databases. So let's look at this one. Well, actually that might, well, let me look at a different one because this one's got the full text finder. Let's get one that has a PDF attached. How about this one? So on the side here in the database, there are some tools. You could save this article to your Google Drive account. You could add this article to your folder. You could print this article, email this article. Typically, we just recommend that students email the article to themselves because if you email the article, then you'll be able to access it from your email. Now, if you were working on a huge project and you needed lots and lots of sources, then it may be okay to create an account with the database. But if you just need a few articles, emailing them to yourself is probably the best way to save your sources. You can also save here, which would allow you to download the article. You could export it if you're using programs like RefWorks or EasyBib to cite your sources. You could always download the metadata so that you could have all that for your citation manager. For linking, never copy the link that's on the URL there because that will not take you back to the article. If you want to copy the link, be sure to use the permalink, which is on the side here. This permanent link will take you back to the article, but the link in the URL will not take you back to the article. So always use the permanent link here to go back to the article. And a lot of times when I'm helping students, I'll just copy a lot of different links from the permanent links, and then I'll just send those to the student after we're done with our research, and they can go back and look at those articles. And when you click on the PDF, there's a few more tools. There's a download button here, so if you wanted to download this PDF, you could just download it to your computer or download it to your flash drive, and that's another easy way to keep up with your research. The only thing with downloading it is sometimes you may not have all the information to cite it, so watch out for that. At least in this article, we have the name of the journal, the year, should have the volume number and issue number and page numbers, but sometimes if it's only the text, it may not give you the information that you need to cite it. So if you're only downloading the articles, you also make sure that you're paying attention to the detailed record, that you have all the information that you need to cite the source. Now there is a really cool cite button here, and this will give you a sample citation But you always have to double check these because they're computer generated. They're not actually created by a person. So because they're computer generated, a lot of times there are errors in the citation. So you'll always want to follow the direction and guidance that you have in your Blackboard course for citing your sources. Even the database says, in this case, to pay special attention to personal names, capitalizations, and dates, because these are frequently incorrect. So if you copy and paste that into your paper, you'll probably get points taken off because it's not always formatted correctly. So even though it's there and it's a good starting point, you do have to double check them and make sure that they're formatted correctly in MLA format. So I'm going to go back to the library's website and just point out a few more things from our library. So our library hours are listed on our webpage. If you want to see the entire, all of the hours for the entire semester, there is a link here where you can see all of our hours. But our virtual reference hours are also listed here. So we have our virtual reference room where we have librarians waiting, and that's where you would go to drop in to meet with a librarian, the virtual reference. And that's also on our scrolling page here. You'll see this link here that says Chat with a Librarian Online. That's where you would go to chat with a librarian, to ask your questions. You don't need an appointment. You can just drop in. No appointment needed. We have a Contact Us link here, and this is where you could send us an email. It's basically just a form. Just tell us who you are and what you would like for us to help you with, and we'll be glad to answer your questions. We get a lot of questions through this Contact Us page. Or you could just email us at library@ju.edu, and we can also answer your questions there. You can renew your library items from our main page. You can just click here and there'll be instructions on how to renew your items if you have items checked out. We've got our semester hours. This is our link for Book a Librarian, so I'm going to click on that. We typically do ask for a 3-day notice, but if you have an immediate need and you don't have a 3-day notice, that's okay. Go ahead and put in your request anyway, and we'll be glad to help you. The reason why we have a 3-day notice there is because sometimes, we're closed for 3-day weekends, and we may not see it over the weekend. But put in as much notice as you can, and we'll be glad to meet with you. Also this semester, all of our appointments are going to be held virtually. In the past, we were able to travel. We could go meet at Starbucks, or we can meet at the Defender's Den, but currently all of our appointments are virtual. So you'll just tell us who you are. You'll tell us what you are. So if you're undergraduate student, graduate student, faculty, the course that you're in, the research topic that you're researching. That way we can have a heads up of what you're researching. Your library experience, so new to the library, your phone number, email address, the day and time that you would like to meet with a librarian. And you can even request a librarian by name. So if you want to meet with me, my name is Nancy Tucker. You can meet with me there. But all of our librarians are excellent, so they'll all be really glad to help you. If you just want first available, you can click on first available. But if you know a librarian that you've been working with in the past, you can select them by name. And then how would you like to meet? We can either send you an email or we can meet virtually through Blackboard. The best way to meet is online through Blackboard because we can chat back and forth. The librarian can ask you questions about your assignment, and we're really able to help you more in detail when we meet virtually. Email is a little bit harder because it's more back and forth, and sometimes it's more difficult and more challenging to communicate through email, but virtually is a lot better. With the email, we usually say it's a getting started email, just because it's going to be instructions on how to get to your research guide, the best keywords to use, the best database to use to get you started. But if you need more in-depth assistance, I definitely recommend an online meeting would be the best way to meet with us. I'm going to go back to Swisher Library. So we talked about the Book a Librarian. if you want to find a book, we didn't talk a lot about finding books, but if you want to find a book, you would just use the library catalog on the main page of the library. So let's do a topic. How about, oh, there we go, illegal immigration. We'll do a search for illegal immigration. So you just type in the topic that you're looking for. It's going to bring you to this really big database that also contains articles. But if you're only looking for books, you'll just change this limit here from available in library collection to catalog only. So catalog only will show you only books that we have available in the library. So for instance, this book here is available in the main collection of the library. You'll just write down the long list of letters and numbers and the call number, and that will be the location of where the book is located on the shelf. So as you can see, we have lots of books. Now, some of our books in our library collection are older, so that is something to keep in mind. If you want to find up-to-date research, the best place to look would be in the databases like Academic Search Complete. But we do have books available, and we also have ebooks, so it is another option. This is only showing us our print books. So if we wanted to find electronic books, instead of catalog, we might say library collection. And then after we say library collection, then we would want to scroll down here to books, and this would show us our ebooks. We have 328,000 ebooks. So ebooks are a lot like books. You just find one that you're interested in, and then you would just click on the link to view the book just as it would appear in the library. So there's several different links there that will take you directly to the book. So I know that was a lot of information. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful weekend.